Okay.
Okay, I'm going to call to order the February 15th, 2021 meeting of the Community Review Board and Police Practices Ad Hoc Transition Committee. And if I could have Charmaine, I'll just read the roll, who's present, so we can have that into the record instead of calling the roll. And so I have myself as chair of the committee, Charmaine Mosley, our executive director, and Brandon Hilpert, the chair of the CRB. We have committee members Joe Craver, Diana Dent, Nancy Vaughn, Patrick Anderson, and former committee member and rules committee member Marty Workman. And then we have our liaison with the San Diegans for Justice, Kate Yavandetti, present. And we have member Kevin Harrington, who is not present. So let me pull up the agenda. Attached to the meeting notice were the minutes from our last meeting last Friday on January the 8th. Were there any additions or corrections to those?
Nancy?
Yes, I had a change in the minutes on the second page. It's talking about, I don't have it up. It's talking about a change that needs to be made, and it says fund modus operandi, and it means fundamental modus operandi is going to be removed and replaced.
And so changing the word fund to fundamental?
Please.
Okay, well, they could be fun too. You never know.
I could be, I understand that, but the intent was the fundamental was the most important.
Okay, any other corrections?
Thank you.
Okay, hearing none, unless there's an objection, we'll approve that by consensus with the correction that Nancy made. And were there's any public comment submitted, Charmaine?
You're on mute, Charmaine.
Sorry, we need to take the vote for the minutes.
We do? Okay. Then
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Doug Case,
yes.
Brandon Hilpert,
Yes.
Nancy Vaughn,
Yes.
Patrick Anderson,
Yes.
Joe Craver,
Yes.
Marty Workman.
I'm not a committee member.
Noted. Sorry. Diana Dent.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, and was there any public comment?
No public comment received.
Okay, and so our first item of business is unfinished business, which was the bylaws. And I sent out yesterday afternoon. We'll send out with the minutes for the changes made at the last meeting, and then we had some additions since then. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull those up. I hope everybody had a chance to see that. So let me go back to Zoom and share screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and so I highlighted in yellow the changes from the last meeting. The first one was the purpose statement, which Patrick and Kate we're going to work on. I saw in the minutes that Nancy also was going to take a look at that, but I didn't remember that when I emailed Kate and Patrick. So hopefully this meets with your approval, Nancy. If not, we can revise as necessary. And so
I don't think it really does say what the purpose is. It says what we're going to do as a commission, but I don't see where it references the overarching why are we doing these things? And that would, to me, would be the purpose, but that's okay.
Well,
That's
that's
all.
included in the mission. So it actually, they included both a mission and a purpose. And so the first part of it is just like the last purpose statement was what we do. And then the mission statement is the last sentence, which was the mission of the commission is to hold law enforcement accountable to the community and to increase community trust in law enforcement, resulting in increased safety by both the community and law enforcement. So
Okay, that I would call the real purpose, but that's okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
people use different terms for mission and purpose statements, but I think they did a good job of creating both the mission and purpose statement, but other people can chime in.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I jump in for a moment, Doug?
Sure.
So I just want to give credit to Kate, who did the first draft of this, and then it circulated to me to make some changes. Kate's first draft was excellent, and the work I did was to sort of separate out a little bit the different responsibilities of the CPP as delineated by Measure B. Could you scroll down slightly? Okay, thank you. I know you're going to add mission to the top, but that's where I think
you're in my mind. Thank you.
So I wanted to point that out, and I also want to highlight that one of the things that Kate inserted here that I was eager to insert as well, but to give credit to credit, or where it's due, was really to focus in the purpose on the specific things we do and on transparency and accountability to the community, which didn't exist in the previous statement. I think what that does is it highlights, and there you go, Doug, you've
Sorry.
I know it. I know you've got to add it. I know I won't let you forget. But I think what that does, I think it's important to note that what that insertion represents is the result of community engagement over the last few months, because what we've been hearing again and again and again from the community is that they want transparency and accountability, not just of SDPD, but also of the CPP. That's bullet point number 1, on the community's input. So Kate's revision here writes that into our mission to our purpose, sorry, so that future CPP commissioners will be reminded that one of their first orders of business is to ensure the commission itself is as transparent as state law permits, and fully accountable to the community it has been designed to represent. And then the mission, as Nancy was pointing out, we sort of wanted to delineate between the specifics of what Measure B empowers the commission to do in brief, and then the overarching mission being about accountability and trust and safety. So I just wanted to walk through some of those steps, and especially I wanted to acknowledge and thank Kate for the deftness which with she put this together. Okay, Doug, now you can add mission.
Okay, yeah. And so unless there's an objection, I'm going to add mission to the title of the section. Okay. And unless there's any more comment on that, and
Sure.
thank you for doing that. I think you did a great job.
Can you scroll back, Doug, please? Okay, so should the purpose and the mission be separate?
I think it's okay to combine them. I mean, we can make them 2 separate sections, but I'm okay.
So that so that it's cleaner.
What do people think? I'm
No,
okay.
it's fine. It's fine like it is, Charmaine.
Yeah, I like it the way it is, quite frankly.
Okay. And if we were going to separate it, I'd probably put the mission first. But
And you could, in this paragraph, you could put that sentence first too, but it doesn't hurt to have it all together. We don't need more sections.
Yeah, I think that it's good to have it in one paragraph, because what I see is taking this paragraph and putting it in your, in all the publicity that goes out.
Mhm.
This is what's going out to the community, and just to kind of have it short and all together.
Yeah, I agree.
Should the,
It's well done.
in the paragraph, should the mission statement come before purpose, or does it make any difference? It kind of reads well the way that it is, although normally I see a purpose mission coming before purpose. So
I do
any
too,
thoughts?
but listening to what Patrick has to say, the community wouldn't read far enough to get past the first sentence. So I think we should put in the beginning the things that the community is going to look for, which is what they have. So I would leave it like it is.
I would agree.
Okay, then if there's any other comment on that section, move on. Okay, and then the removal for cause. We looked at, and Charmaine did a little bit of history of that section. It's included in the, that section comes from the municipal code section that was the implementation of Measure G, but the history of it went back to bylaws prior to that. And I think Charmaine said that section was added in 2014. But I guess the point is, it's not a city requirement. And that paragraph says that anybody who is convicted of a felony or moral turpitude is automatically and immediately removed. And if I understood the discussion last week, well, the question was, do we need to do that? And since we don't, my suggestion was to make it optional. So depending upon, and then I simply put conviction of a crime rather than saying a crime of a moral turpitude, so that the commission itself and ultimately the city council could decide whether or not the criminal offense was serious enough to impede the member's ability to serve as an effective and impartial member. And so kind of combining misconduct with conviction of a crime. If others have a different take on it.
I have a couple thoughts about it. First of all, I'm very happy with this change, and I will report it back to the community because they've been asking about this. And I like the way you've stipulated conviction of a crime that impedes the ability to serve. I wonder though, who makes the decision that a specific crime is impeding the ability to serve? And so I know this will be in standard operating procedures, but I wonder if there needs to be a phrase here about the mechanism for removal in that case, because somebody needs to make the decision.
Well, that's in the next paragraph.
Right.
Oh,
City
I
Council.
thought this paragraph had been cut. I'm sorry. I think the marked up version I have it's reading strangely on my Microsoft Word. So okay, then I'll shut up and read this and others can comment.
Yeah, I mean, my comment, and I guess it's kind of taken care of by the second paragraph, is that it's so vague. Misconduct, well, not conviction, but misconduct that impedes a member's ability to serve. And so it kind of leaves it open for a lot of, there could be a potential, I think, misuse of this section, but hopefully with the second paragraph that has the cabinet dealing with it, and then it would still be dealt with at an open meeting. I mean, hopefully that provides enough safeguards. I'm just concerned that misconduct could be construed as, frankly, as activism, and I don't want to see that as a possible way to get somebody removed.
And then keep in mind too that it also requires a hearing before the city council.
Right, right.
Yeah, so I've now read it. I don't know why it's crossed out in my Word doc version. I don't know if that's true for others, but this answers my question. I agree with Kate. I think maybe adding an even stronger word in that number 4, that is like the word specific, right? So in the paragraph beginning, a member may also be removed, go to the number 4.
Right.
And so maybe just saying specific misconduct or conviction of a specific crime, or maybe the word specifically before impedes, helps to narrow the scope a bit. And then I don't know if others agree with that, but the 2/3 vote is a really good limit on the mechanism. I think that's a good starting place. I wonder if.
Well,
So,
well, two things. Keep in mind that this is just in the interim bylaws, and so we can discuss this in more depth, and we may want to revamp it for the permanent bylaws. So this just is removal of the interim commissioners.
yes, that's a good point. I do want to, and this is related to Kate's comment about activism. So
Before we do that, let me see if there's a consensus with adding the word specifically before impedes.
I don't think it's necessary, frankly.
I agree with Nancy. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, I would be a third on that. I think especially by the fact that something would have to happen. The board would then have to review it and decide that it's something that we feel makes that person not able to serve. And then on top of it, the city council would have to confirm that. I think there's enough protection to prevent, egregious overuse of kicking people out. I don't think we need to add it.
I
Okay.
would agree with that.
yeah,
Okay.
I've been convinced.
Okay, do you want to make your additional point, Patrick?
So there's something else that's emerged in these roundtables, and it's come up at every single roundtable, and it's not just one person commenting, it's multiple people commenting live in the chat and via email before and after. And that is whether or not this is true. And I know that that there are different opinions on the truth of this. There is a feeling in the community that membership in a particular organization has led some members to be kicked off. And again, I know that is not, there's not unanimity around that belief, but it is a belief in the community. And I wonder if there isn't a way in this section to just add something that says clearly membership in community organization shall not be used as a reason for removal, or something like that. I just want to put that on the table.
I was going to try to find the
If I can jump in on that one, I know where we're trying to go with that, but I think what happens if we have someone who turns out to be a member of the KKK? Because I think if we're going to have a rule like that, it has to apply across the board to all community organizations. And I think if we start getting too specific, if we do end up having, as rare as it is, if we had a case where someone was in a problematic group that is causing problems, I would think that would be reason to have someone dismissed from the commission. So I get why we're trying to do that, but I think it cuts both ways. So I don't know if we should add that.
I agree with
and
Brandon.
actually the issue that Patrick is raising is part of the conflict of interest section, and it says active involvement in other boards, committees, or organizations could pose an actual or perceived conflict of interest with membership on the commission. Members shall disclose all potential conflicts to the chair or executive director immediately.
And once it's disclosed to either the executive director or the chair, we bring that to the entire cabinet and have a discussion as to how to proceed, or if we should proceed, or ways that we can address the issue that was brought to our attention.
So, and again, we may want to take a deeper dive in that when we do the permanent bylaws.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I am moved by Brandon's comment and Charmaine's comment. I want to ensure that that same mechanism, 2/3 board vote recommendation, that those same protections are built in.
They are because the last thing, I'm sorry, I keep.
That's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that the last reason for removal is conflict of interest.
And so that gets spelled out. Okay, thank you.
And so it would require a 2/3, and then also would require, a hearing before the city council and so forth. So I think there's the safeguards there.
Okay, I'm satisfied to move on if others are.
Okay. And
Kate,
then,
Kate, are you okay with it?
Well, obviously, I shared Patrick's concern because the whole sort of what is a conflict of interest again is vague. But I'm pleased that it still goes to an open meeting so that there can be community comment. And and then if it's clear, I mean, for example, Stephanie, who was part of Women Occupy, was denied her application to be on the CRB a number of years ago, and specifically told because she was with Women Occupy. And that's the kind of thing that we're hearing over and over again from people.
and I think maybe the best, well, maybe we can address that both in conflict of interest, but also when we talk about the selection criteria for the commissioners. Oh
yeah, are we going to put in there that they can't be a member of a white supremacist Nazi organization?
Well, for me, it would be worth talking about because I'm not sure I would have wanted to see one of my fellow commissioners in the video that came out of the Capitol last week. I mean, I don't think it's a moot point.
Yeah, but again, I think maybe the best way to approach that is when we develop the conflict of interest language for the implementation ordinance, as well as the permanent bylaws. We may want to make a deeper dive into that issue.
Right.
And I'll just say we are not by any stretch the first organization to ask these questions, nor are we the first organization to use a kind of slippery slope mentality that if you provide protection for a range of groups, maybe the KKK would be invited. There's a framework for working out these intricacies, and I'm sure we can all go back to our own organizations and bring what we know from there, as Doug's suggesting later on, to sort of hammer out the conflict of interest section.
Okay, and then the other issue is the closed meetings. And at the last meeting, we did to strike out the police personnel and replace it with a statement that the commission may invite the personnel to attend any session or for the purpose of answering questions from the commission, and that SDPD personnel shall not engage in deliberations regarding complaints. And so I changed the language to reflect that, but in the meantime, I got an email from Nancy suggesting that a different approach of not mentioning at all who's allowed to attend and leave that to the operational standing rule. I think it makes sense in bylaws to indicate who's allowed to attend, but we could also do it in the operational. Well, I'm not sure it'd be an operational, it'd be an administrative standing rule. And we need to adopt the our standing rules at the same time or shortly thereafter we adopt the interim bylaws. And so and we also, the issue came up last time of seating arrangements when we meet physically, and I think that's best approached through a standing rule, not in the bylaws. So thoughts of, so I guess we have two options, or there's just two options on the table. One is to keep it as it is, which was the changes we talked about last time. And the second is to,
So my feeling, Doug, on this is that the less we put, the more flexibility we have when we get to our procedure. I don't want anything here that says by implication, for example, we can't invite a complainant to come and talk to us if we want to. I just think there are other considerations that need to be put into a procedure, and the bylaws is really intended to be structural. I would have done it the way I wrote it up for this right now, by invitation only, if I had had Charmaine to suggest that when we wrote the bylaws a few years back.
If I'd agree with that, I don't think that the invitation only should just be invited to SDPD. I think once you've taken out that they're allowed to be in there, and then you may want to talk to a complainant, you may want to talk to a witness, you may want to talk to your independent investigator, just to answer questions, but that no non-commission members other than, I guess, legal counsel and executive director would be in the session during deliberations, that people are only there to answer questions.
You know, I would agree with that. I think that we need to keep all the flexibility that we have, and I wouldn't restrict it. So I agree with Nancy.
I was going to say maybe sorry, I think kind of going off what Kate was saying is I think just because the commission is going to be changing over time, instead of specifying exactly who on the commission can be there, why don't we just say commission staff? Because if we just say, the executive director, outside counsel, or, our independent counsel, then it could be like, well, now that we've hired our policy analyst, well, they can't go. I would just say anything that's commission staff can attend meetings.
okay, but Nancy's proposal doesn't mention who is
Anybody.
allowed to attend at all.
Right.
It doesn't mention commission staff. It simply,
I agree with it, with what folks are saying. I do think, again, as a representative of the outreach committee, I do think that there is also the overarching concern that gets articulated in a lot of ways. And again, I don't want to debate the concern, but the concern in the community is that there's too much partnership between IA and the current CRB. And so I agree with Nancy and Kate and others that we don't want to place any limits here. But I think in the bylaws, it should say, and I agree with Brandon, the commission and commission staff, are the baseline, and then maybe say something, sorry, my cat was sneezing. And then maybe say something else like, others may be at the discretion of the commission, others may be invited to answer questions during a closed meeting, but shall be, but then shall leave before deliberations proceed.
well, see, and I think Nancy's approach is that we leave all that to an administrative standing rule.
Absolutely.
And just keep it simple in the bylaws, saying that closed meetings are held for the purpose of reviewing complaints, or to discuss, what the purpose is, and leave who's allowed to attend into the standing rule.
Can I just comment that we should need to use the word citizens before complaints?
Okay.
And also, we're not actually reviewing the complaints. We need to add, what we're reviewing are the investigations.
Okay.
Because complaints is just one category of what the commission will review. So
Okay, so before I start revising here,
I didn't change that part. That was exactly the way it was before.
Right.
okay, and we need to correct that, but before I correct it, is there a consensus that Nancy's approach of keeping it general and then getting specific in the administrative standing rules is a better way to go?
Yes.
Okay.
May I ask, is it harder to change the bylaws than it
Yes.
is to change the standing operating procedures? Okay.
Yes, it's a 2/3 vote to change the bylaws.
Okay, for that reason, and again,
Yeah.
representing the community, I agree. I do think the most general language about what a closed meeting is needs to be here, not just in terms of what we're doing in the closed meeting, but who we don't need to get into invitations, deliberations, and so on, but a closed meeting is commission members and commission staff. I do think if that's in the bylaws, it's less likely then that the future commission would get into the habit of just having IA in the room, because the bylaws themselves would say that a closed meeting is commission and commission staff.
So how about this? Well, first of all, I'm going to take out the word citizens unless there's an objection to that. Okay. And
Oh, I
then where it has
agree.
where it says attendance is by
Mhm.
invitation only, but how about attendance by well, by anyone other than?
I don't think we need that
Commission.
sentence.
Let me say member, and
You do.
so I'm saying attendance by anyone other than commission members and staff is by invitation only.
That
So then
works
that makes it
perfectly.
clear that commission members and staff have a right to be there. And others are by invitation only.
And what I'm thinking is going forward, the case review teams may, after they're through and want to present, they may have requirements or suggestions about other people that should be included in their presentation or might be useful for the commission, the broader commission to interact with. I really think there are changes that we can make going forward to this process.
I like that. I wonder, would people agree to adding a very brief sentence after the attendance by anyone sentence that just says, no invited guests shall be present for deliberations?
No,
I think it makes more sense put in the standing rule, because the standing rule kind of goes through the process.
Okay.
There's one other point, Patrick, that you can, on the fly, if you want to change a procedure while you're doing something, like we're in the middle of a board meeting, we can change the procedure for how the board meeting, just for that time. You can't change the bylaws.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Right,
I
right.
think it
So-
should be a bylaw that when deliberation is happening, no one else aside from commissioners and commission staff should be in the room. I don't
Yeah.
think it should be changeable during a meeting for that one moment that,
I'm
oh, we're
not sure
gonna,
you can change a standing rule.
well, is there consensus that deliberation should be for commission and commission staff only?
Mhm, mhm.
Then why wouldn't
Members.
that be in the bylaws? That's not an operating procedure. That's a general principle.
I don't think there is consensus, especially when you
No, I
take
don't.
this to an open meeting to have the whole board, the current board, soon to be commission, debate it.
If you're going to amend the standing rules, you have to well, you can, I guess there's a process for amending the standing rules.
But if you don't
The
want to,
difference the difference is under Robert's rules. You can suspend rules. You cannot suspend bylaws.
right, there you go. That's the word I was looking for.
And that's, again, that's why I keep pushing for this. And I apologize, because if there isn't consensus, there isn't consensus. But it seems to me a clear message from Measure B itself that deliberation, that IA should not be in the room for deliberation. And for that very reason, that you can't just change a bylaw, I think I like Nancy's language here, and I'm in support of removing the other stuff and going with this.
Well,
But just as I think attendance should be named, I also think deliberation should be circumscribed by the, in general terms, by the bylaws.
But we
so-
don't have
and I
deliberation
would disagree,
defined.
Patrick. I
Yeah.
think that
It's not
there's a
defined.
difference between being present for deliberations and participating in deliberations.
Well,
We
that's the
don't
whole point.
I'm not sure that's
Let me
true.
just add that
Well, no,
that's the whole
there
point.
is a huge difference there. I mean, one is that you speak and you debate, and the other is that you listen.
But
Yes,
the argument from the community is that when IA is in the room for the commission's deliberation, that affects the deliberation itself. Whether or not IA is so-called participating, the community, and there is community consensus around this, because
There may be,
IA
but-
is in the room. And I would agree, knowing
I
that-
disagree, and so I mean, and there definitely is not agreement within the board.
Patrick, we haven't defined deliberation in here. It gets defined in the standing rule, in the procedure. So that to refer to deliberation at this point is meaningless because nobody knows what that is or where it is or how it fits.
Well, deliberation is debate, and debate is
I know what it
defined.
is, Doug. I'm just saying, in terms of how we're addressing it here, we're not addressing the parts of the presentation to the board, to the commission, to have a section called deliberation.
That's a constitutional argument, and I think that's a fair argument. Kate, did I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
I'm just going to agree with you that it's a really major issue, and you know, I don't think people are, you know, specifically think that any one of you are necessarily affected when IA is in the meeting, but as you go on later in another paragraph, just the perception is a real negative. Just the and I have been told by former CRB members that there's no question that people are intimidated on occasion by having IA there during deliberations. So I think it's essential to have that in there. I mean, attendance means that somebody can be there all the way through deliberations, even if they're just sitting in the back with a gun on their hip. I mean, it's just not, it's not what the community is looking for. I really think it's important, as Patrick's saying, to have something that says that that during discussion or deliberations, or whatever term you want to use, will only be commission and commission staff.
Okay, and we've had long debates about this, Kate, even within the within the CRB. You know, and there are specific benefits of having them there. I just recall at our last meeting, there were like 4 or 5 times when we needed to get clarification or information from the department during the middle of our deliberations. And the second thing is that having them listen and hear the community and hear what the concerns of the commission are is much different than getting a piece of paper that says that the commission, you know, agreed or disagreed. To hear the comments that are made by the commissioners regarding the case helps them to understand the feedback, you know, from the community. And so if the commissioners are representatives in the community, it's helpful for the department to hear directly what the concerns of the community are by being present to hear them. But I guess the discussion for the issue for today is, does that go into our administrative standing rules? Because it put in our administrative standing rules, who can be invited and what their role is. I don't think we're going to reach a consensus today on that issue.
Doug, can you please scroll up slightly so we can see the language that was previously there? Okay, pause there, please. See, so we actually did agree on this last week. SDPD personnel shall not engage in deliberations regarding complaints. And I want to salvage, there may not be consensus here, but and I know these are interim bylaws, but I want to salvage some aspect of that. And I agree with Nancy's constitutionalist frame here, that unless we're stipulating the sort of organizational, what constitutes a deliberation, I agree with that. I think we don't want to get into that here. Because of that, it's hard for us to set any exclusions or
Right.
inclusions on deliberation. I agree with that, but I think it should be a guiding principle for the CPP that when the commissioners are doing the hard work of whatever we want to call it, we don't have to call it deliberation. When they're doing that work, the bylaws state only the commissioners and commission staff can be in the room. There's got to be some way to say that without getting into the thorny issue of defining or not defining what deliberation is. There's got to be some way to say.
Well, see, I mean, there's not a consensus here whether they should be in the room or not. I think they should be in the room and speak.
And I think this conversation should be put off until we're working on the standing rule, the process for our actual meetings.
Yeah, but we're not going to be putting it off very long because we need to develop our
No, I
standing
understand.
rules
It's gonna
in the
happen
next week or
soon,
two.
but I agree, but not today, is all I'm saying, not for the bylaw.
Okay, then
Okay,
let me suggest a compromise, if that's okay. I think.
You know,
Can we just move back?
And-
Doug?
And do we need to
Can
have
we-
invitation only?
Attendance by is, what do you mean by that?
Get rid of the word only.
Yeah, do we need to have only there?
I don't think we do. Does anybody have an
Thank you.
objection to taking it out?
No,
Thank you.
I mean, I think it's kind of implied. Well, Patrick, you want to go ahead? Patrick, you were going to suggest a compromise.
Well, I was going to suggest, I mean, and I'm glad that Diana made that point, because I think that bylaws should be empowering more than restrictive.
yes.
And that's why taking the word only out, it moves us in that direction. So then I wonder if we could say attendance to respond to specific questions by anyone other than commission members.
You're saying at the end?
In that sentence, to say attendance to respond to questions by anyone other than commission members and staff is by invitation.
I think it probably is best to get into the deliberations of how, I mean, to get into the administrative standing rule of how we
I agree.
do that.
Okay,
So I think
I'm going to leave my objection on the floor, or I'm going to leave it on the table, but agree to move on because there's not consensus here.
Okay, so let me ask this though. Okay, so I think I hear a consensus that we're going to go with Nancy's approach of keeping it general and getting specific in the administrative standing rules. I heard a suggestion that we ought to go ahead and say that keep the statement from last time that SDPD personnel should not engage in deliberations regarding complaints in here.
Well, I agree with that. That solves the whole problem that I was raising.
Yeah, but you're interpreting engage in deliberations as being present.
Mhm.
You know, but if you're not present, then you can't engage, and so the board can decide when they're there and when they're not, because that's by invitation. And so if they are there, they can't. I think this makes it clear that they can't speak in the debate. We may, in our administrative standing rules, have them be present, but not, like, for example, during the question and answer, our current process for the benefit of Kate is, when we review cases, we have a question and answer period, and then we have a debate period. And so we may want to allow them to be present during the question and answer period, but not be present during the debate period, as one example. But is it okay with people to keep this sentence or add this sentence to Nancy's section?
Not for me.
So you don't,
I don't want to put any limitations. I want to just leave it the way you added. You added no one other than commission members and staff. Okay, but I would not put anything else in. I don't think we're talking about the process at this point. We're talking about the meeting and how it, who's there and who, other people by invitation, and I think we can work that out later.
okay. And then I got a, but there's not a consensus. So we can add that to the, and we're gonna have a lively debate on the standing
Yes.
rules or,
Absolutely.
I disagree with this. I think that sentence needs to be there. And I understand that it doesn't do the whole work of attendance, but I don't feel comfortable signing off on those bylaws until we have a sentence like that.
okay, then let's take a, let's take a vote if we have a disagreement.
Where would you put it?
At the very end. And maybe put SD personnel if invited, because that, so that it's clear that, in other words, attendance by anyone other than commission members and staff is by invitation.
If invited, SDPD personnel shall not
engage in deliberations regarding complaints, or maybe add the word investigations too.
Well, I don't think that anybody other than commission or commission staff should be present in a closed meeting during
Not gonna-
deliberations.
we're not gonna-
Not just SDPD. I mean, the community is concerned about SDPD, and I don't know if you'd be calling in other people anyway, but I don't, I mean, I think that sentence should be more general.
I agree with Kate. So maybe,
I agree with that too.
so maybe only commission members and staff shall be present during deliberations.
That's what I would support.
Okay.
You guys are boxing yourself in. I don't think that makes sense. You're putting up a limit that may or may not stand the test of time.
And Doug, I shouldn't do this because I think you misspoke, and I would like for what you just said to be in the bylaws, but I don't think that's what you meant. I think what you meant is only commissioners and commissioners' staff should engage in deliberations. That's what you meant. I mean, Kate and I are pushing for should be present, but I think the issue in the current format is that complainants don't get invited to our deliberations. And so by definition, if you, from the community's perspective, by definition, if the community is not present, the community side is not present in a debate, but SDPD representatives are, then there's an imbalance. And I think that's a fair read, even if it's not necessarily the experience of people on CRB. So I think if you wanted to add only commissioners and commission staff shall engage in deliberations.
Isn't that
You're still not defining
inappropriate?
it.
Isn't that inappropriate for staff to engage in deliberations?
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, you're right.
Commissioners,
Have only
what- yeah.
commissioners. That's a good point. So only commissioners shall engage in deliberations.
There you go again. What's a deliberation?
Well,
Well,
we
what's
can,
engage?
Yeah,
but I think
this
that,
is not the place to define those things. I don't think, guys.
so
We're not doing a procedure. We're doing just the structure of the meeting.
okay, but if we need to, we can get into that in the standing rule. But
Yes.
what I'm hearing Patrick saying is he thinks that it's important to put as a,
I'm of two minds. I'm hearing what Nancy's saying. I think putting a sentence here means questions about what is engage, what are deliberations.
Yeah,
I absolutely hear that. I just, I think,
What about participate?
well, but then is answering a question participating is going to come up. So there's a conflict.
yeah,
Maybe we got to clarify all this in the standing rules.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree
Yeah.
with Nancy. I think putting in some things that are going to be very contentious in the bylaws won't get us where we need to be.
Okay, then I'm going to take this out. And I got a text from Charmaine saying we take out citizens, but I think we took out citizens in Nancy's section. But we also need to make reference to review.
Complaints, I guess, and investigations.
Yes, and investigations. And how about they're brought against? How about regarding? Because you don't have a investigation brought against.
yes.
add investigations.
Why don't, Doug, why not just say to review all cases designated for board investigation or review or something like that? Just to review cases.
Well, how about, I mean, is anything wrong to review complaints and investigations regarding? Because those are the two things I mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Add an S after investigation.
What?
Add an S after investigation, and then go back up to the paragraph before this.
Well, see, the paragraph before that is going to be deleted. We're going to delete this entire paragraph and replace it with Nancy's.
Okay.
Okay. And so hearing a consensus, we're going to delete that.
The next line.
Whoops. Oh, yeah. And what?
The line that says suggested by Nancy. Replace the next paragraph.
Yeah, actually, maybe I can just, I think I can delete that without lining it out.
There you go.
Although we can put into our bylaws, this was suggested by Nancy. Okay.
You didn't delete enough, Doug. I don't think. Oh, no, you're fine. Okay.
Okay. Let me just put, okay.
My mistake.
Doug, pause, go back. Sorry. I think there's something that's been left out of what meetings are. Where is it? To discuss personnel or other information that is to review complaints and investigations regarding SDPD officers in accordance with penal code. There's other stuff left out here. So the third category would be to discuss other policy, policy recommendations and other matters.
Not in closed session. This is
talking. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, this is closed session. So
you're right. Sorry.
Okay. Well, and we also, when we work at our standing rules, can talk about, obviously the police can be present during open session, but I think we ought to have a separate standing rule talking about
that they don't sit at the table.
They don't sit at the table, yeah. And I don't know, I mean, it may sound like silly, but I think maybe just having a simple, we have a couple of parliamentary standing rules saying, what the it may sound silly, but it's significant.
Can I ask? I had a couple questions on the paragraph defining the executive committee on page 15. I don't know where you're scrolling to, but I had a couple questions there.
On page 15?
It's on page 15. It's section 2, standing committees, paragraph A. And this is mainly just language. It's not that
okay.
one. So I had a question about what is the health and welfare of the commission? I kind of thought that was an odd phrase, and maybe it's not, but I mean, I was thinking of something more that the executive committee has jurisdiction over I don't know, something more like the productive and ethical functioning of the commission or something like that. Health and welfare sounds like health. I mean, like.
I agree with Kate. I'm not sure where it came from. It probably was there before. I
And
know I didn't
so-
write it. Let me see.
And the only other question I had was.
Well, first of all, let me find where that is. Oh, health and welfare.
Yeah, I don't know where that
Executive
came
has
from.
continuing jurisdiction over the.
I liked Kate's phrase, productive and ethical functioning, over the productive and health and ethical functioning of the commission. I thought that was a good phrase.
Over the. Let me try. Repeat it again for me, please.
So you could either say productive and ethical functioning or effective and ethical functioning.
How
Either
about
one.
I like effective, because effective, I think it encompasses effective and
Right.
ethical,
Mhm.
ethical functioning. Okay, I like that.
Okay, and the other comment I had in that paragraph, well, let me see here.
Well, I mean, does everybody else like it? I don't want to
Oh.
speak for everybody.
Yes, I like
Okay.
it.
Okay. So if you disagree with something I say, please feel free to disagree. Okay. Go ahead, Kate.
I have a note here that, the chair of this committee is the chair. I would think it should say is the chair of the commission.
Okay, where is that?
Is that right? The second sentence?
Second sentence of what?
It,
Oh, the chair of this
of
no,
this committee, executive committee is the chair of the commission. Is that right?
no, the chair of the executive committee is the commission chair.
Right, right. But it just says, I see commission is in there. I thought it was stricken out. And then the only other question I has is it said non-voting members of the executive committee include SDPD representatives. I had a question about that.
Okay, where is that?
Well, that's in that paragraph.
Oh, non shall include
The executive director, legal counsel, and SDPD representatives. So again, you're getting where we're having the SDPD. I realize they're not voting members, but they're still involved in functioning of the commission. And my suggestion would be to remove that.
Is the current
should probably-
does the current executive committee have a representative of SDPD on it?
Yes, they come in, they talk about any issues and concerns. They also provide us with numbers and stats on cases and any other types of updates.
But are they
But I don't
actually,
think they
are
should
they
be a member.
members?
I mean, I think it's one thing to have them come in and provide information and give reports, but I don't see them being members.
No, actually, I can never agree with Kate. I mean, I think it's important that they be there because we need them for the reports and the interaction. But this kind of implies that they are members, and I think that's they're not really members. They're, they're partners, they're guests, but they're not members.
Can you replace it and say by invitation only? Others can attend, other attendees by invitation only or something?
No,
Again?
because executive committee meetings are open meetings
They're
under the
open
Brown Act.
meetings, so yeah.
So I think we can,
You are?
yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
they are.
They have to be.
Oh, God.
And so I think that we can take that out and we can have the standing practice that we normally invite them. But I think I agree. I do agree with Kate that the current language implies that they're members and they really are not members of the executive committee, in my opinion. They are partners, guests who we regularly invite. So do people agree? So the suggestion is we take out and SDPD representatives. Is there?
Oh, is that the only part you're going to take out?
Mhm.
Is there an
I'm
objection
not
to that?
I'm not a member either.
But it's a non-voting. That's a good point.
I'm
Well,
staff. So
yeah, maybe we got to take out the word members. Non-voting. How about?
Why don't we just take out that sentence? Because technically there shouldn't be any non-voting members of an executive committee. The members are just the voting members.
Well, I mean, there are. You sometimes have. I mean, you can have a voting member.
Sure, but we don't.
We have one right now.
Yeah, Marty.
It's non-voting attendees.
Yeah, that's attendee. Those aren't Marty's not a member of this committee anymore. He's a non-voting attendee. Kate
Right.
is a non-voting member of this committee.
Okay, so let me ask this question. So if we change members to attendees, then is it okay to keep SDPD representatives included?
No.
I don't think that any of this should be here. That can be worked out in the standing operating procedures in the same way the other stuff can. Just say who the members are and say when meetings are, and then don't make any exclusions, but don't create non-voting memberships. So just
Okay.
take out that sentence.
Okay, is there a problem with taking out that sentence? I mean, keeping it there kind of makes it clear that you normally would have the attendance of the executive director and legal counsel. So there are people who would.
I just, again, I don't think that should be in a bylaw because, for example, one of the things the executive committee may need to discuss is the staffing of the commission. And
in which case they go into executive session.
Fair enough. But why are we creating non-voting memberships of that committee in the bylaws? I mean, why not just say in the standing operating procedures that?
Because we don't have a standing operating procedure for executive committees. So we'd have to create one.
Okay, then delete that sentence. And then the last sentence is regular meetings of the executive committee, comma, with the executive director, legal counsel, and other non-voting invitees, comma, may be held monthly at the discretion of the chair.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was an open meeting. So why do we have to use the word
So it's kind of open.
invitees?
Right. So just, yeah, why do you need any of that? Just, it's an open meeting.
I think it's clarifying who's present. So you have the officers, you have the committee chairs as members, and it doesn't have to be there, but I think it's helpful to say that non-voting attendees include the executive director and legal counsel, so it is clear that normally you would expect them to be there, and take out, and I'm okay with taking out SDPD representatives because we can always invite them.
Maybe we should say non-voting members may include.
Yeah, I like changing members to attendees. Any problem with that?
Non-voting attendees of the executive committee may include, because legal counsel is not always there.
So, or we could just simply take out that sentence altogether and
Get rid of non-voting and members, that both words, and replace with attendees.
may include.
I would encourage taking out that sentence. I don't know why any of this complexity is necessary, given that it's an open meeting. The membership is the executive. So in the current language, does the executive committee include committee chairs?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Have we had an executive committee meeting since I've been outreach chair?
Maybe not, because we haven't had them.
Oh,
we used to have them. We used to have them monthly prior to COVID. And
okay.
And
then I would just say take out that non-voting member sentence. Just take it out and then say regular meetings of the executive committee may be held monthly.
Okay. So I have it highlighted before I delete it. Let me see if there is a consensus. Is there anybody, keeping in mind that if we deleted it, there's nothing that keeps us from continuing the practice of inviting the executive director, the legal counsel, and SDPD representatives. Okay, is there an objection to, you have your hands over your head, Nancy. I'm not sure if that's an objection or you're just looking at the
Trying
screen.
to read the whole thing and see how it reads.
Okay. So it's just saying that the executive committee, well, and now that I think about it, normally,
No, that's,
I mean, the executive director comes to all of the meetings.
it should be one of the executive director's responsibilities to attend our meetings.
Yeah, maybe we can look at that. So maybe, is there an objection to taking it out?
No.
Okay,
Oh, I agree. There's no objection of taking.
okay, then let's take it out. And then let's quickly look down at the duties of the executive director and see if
That's there.
attending meetings is actually, it's not.
So there, number 6 says arrange for the preparation of and dissemination of meeting notices. And then I would say we could add to that about attending those meetings.
That word board also needs to be changed to commission.
Absolutely. Well, he's got CPP, but
Yeah, so just take out the word board.
But I agree with Nancy. I think arrange for the preparation of and dissemination of all meeting notices for CPP and committee meetings.
And then maybe at the end put and it, or maybe it should be, it'd be simpler for sentence structures to put a separate sentence.
separate sentence, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe attend.
Just make another bullet point.
That's what I was thinking was.
Yeah. After 6, hit enter and make 7.
I just I can get rid of this. I hate these control
text boxes. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how you. Okay.
So I just have a question and I guess Shemaine can answer, you all can answer that. Is that really a requirement of the executive director that you go to all the committee meetings?
I hope
Is
so.
that
I think it's an expectation. Yes.
I don't know who else controls the Zoom business, Kate, if she's not here.
No, I
and
understand.
they take, I mean, so normally, yeah, I think normally the executive director, I would say yes, it's an expectation. Okay. It doesn't mean you can't have the meeting without the person, but it's, and if anybody can advise me how you get rid of these text boxes.
I can't, I have no idea.
I know, see, I thought that you could click on, now it's not even doing it, remove content control, but or maybe it did go away. No, it's still there.
Well, you keep creating a new one. That's the problem.
Oh, how do I keep?
So just don't worry about it. Where you are, hit enter.
Okay. Is he not letting me do it? I couldn't enter. So I'm going to hit one there. Well, it's not letting me do it there either. Why is it not letting me?
Can you just include a comment and then we can probably do it later?
Okay. I'm going to put 6 and I'll fix the, oh, here it is. Okay. I'm doing it and won't let me do it's not letting me do a paragraph, but and so attend all CPP committee meetings as a duty. Okay, and I'll fix the formatting later after somebody tells me how to do it.
Committee meetings, board meetings, meetings that's
all CPP commission and committee meetings.
Yes.
How about all commission
related?
Well, maybe not all work, because there could be some meetings that are like subcommittees. You don't need to have them. All commission.
Doug, how about attend all CPP meetings, comma, including committee meetings?
All CPP meetings. Okay. And Patrick, do you know, how to get rid of those text boxes? Well, you're muted.
I've never seen it before in a Word document, so I don't even know how you're doing this, Doug. It's some weird magic you have. So no.
Yeah. And I wrote a chapter for a book recently, and the editors did the same thing to me. And I don't know. It may be the most recent version of Word. I don't know. It's annoying as hell, but
You can figure it out that later.
I know. I'm just.
Can I make a comment? I actually have a court hearing at 1:30, so I just have one other comment that I'd like to raise on page 6, going back to the section on independence.
On page 6.
I also have to leave at 1:30, Doug. So
Okay. No, I didn't. This is taking more time than I thought. I thought this was going to be like a real quick meeting.
Oh, please. Look at who's here. Be serious.
I'm sorry, I'm on page 6 now. So what's your
The independence paragraph, the one right before above Article 3 membership, independence.
okay.
I wanted to add on the first sentence, it says, let's see, balanced review and evaluation processes will be assured. I like to add the word investigation to that. Balanced investigation, comma, review and evaluation processes will be assured, because
How about review, investigation, evaluation? Because they also evaluate investigations. Is that okay?
yeah, I just want to make sure that investigation's in there, because that's the major change between
Okay.
board and commission.
Okay. And is that okay,
Right.
everybody? I think that makes
Yes.
sense.
yes.
And before you leave, Kate,
Yes, sir.
we're going to need you for our discussion of the standing rules. Are
I'm
you
so
willing?
glad to hear that. You will be.
Are you willing to serve on a committee to work on the standing rules?
Yeah, depending on when it is.
Well, we can work it out. We can work it out amongst ourselves. I'll see who else is interested.
That would be fine, but just as you know, as I said for this meeting, my schedule is a little difficult, but I know that courts are closed between noon and 1:30. And so I know that I'm always going to be available between noon and 1:30. And other than that, I cannot assure availability during the day.
Okay.
So that's what my comment.
Okay. And so is there anything else in the bylaws?
Pardon?
Is there anything else on the bylaws that we need to
I did have
discuss?
just a couple minor things on page
Okay.
4 under section 3 discretionary powers, and then I'm going to have to go. It's just typos.
Okay.
Under section 3 discretionary powers,
Uh-huh.
on the paragraph 2, I think it means unless the complainant has requested that the matter be handled without investigation. Is that right?
Yeah. Where is
Instead
that?
of complaint.
Where is
Under
that?
paragraph 2, that sentence, unless the complaint, it says, has requested that the matter be
Complaint.
handled.
You're right. Thank you for catching
Complainant.
that.
And then under that paragraph in section E, I think you want to put SDPD, not SDDP. That's all I have.
Okay.
Wow.
PD. Thank you for catching both of those.
Quick question, given what Kate just said, are we going to meet next week at noon again? This committee?
Well, let me ask, since we know that Kate is
Unreliable.
no, has time constraints, but she's always available at noon.
I can do noon on Fridays are fine.
Okay, but is 10 o'clock on Friday is fine, or should we move it till noon?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I can do 10 o'clock next Friday because I have a hearing at 8:30 and I never know how long they're going to be.
Okay, but you're
That's the
always free at
problem.
noon.
If people can do noon, that would just be that I know I can do.
Okay, is there anybody, well, everybody was free at noon today, so,
Yeah,
Unless,
let's do noon.
okay, I like noon. And so our standing time will be at noon. And we may need to Well, anyways,
Goodbye.
we're done with the bylaws.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye, Kate.
And it's
Bye.
already at
Thank
1:20.
you, Kate.
So what I'd like to do,
Stay safe, Kate.
some of our standing rules will not require much to revise, may not even require any revision at all. Obviously, the one on case review is, and some things on case review, we may have to wait until we find out what the process is for remote, because we're kind of feeling our way through that right now. But obviously the presentation of cases, which then gets into who's allowed to be in the room, and needs to be revised, and that'll need to be adopted soon, because we'll need to decide who we're going to be inviting to future meetings once we become a commission. And so anyway, so it's going to require some work. Is there anybody besides Kate who wants to work on that? I suspect Nancy was, but I don't want to volunteer her.
Nancy's muted.
Nancy, you're muted.
Yes, yes, Doug, thank you.
Okay, are there,
I will.
okay. So I don't want to get too many because it's hard to get so many people involved when you're trying to do that. But if we have me, Kate, Nancy, and Diana,
That's a really good group.
okay. And I will try to set up something so we can at least have a meeting before our next meeting. I won't do it on Monday because Monday is a holiday. So either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, probably at noon, one of those days. And I know that Charmaine, what day are we going to meet with the?
Next Wednesday for the tour.
Yeah, and what time is that?
Next Wednesday at 1 p.m.
Yeah, so getting back by, or so 1 o'clock meeting that day won't work on Wednesday. So let me look at my own. I'm sharing my screen here. I should get rid of my. It's a tour of our potential office space.
Oh, okay.
So that then leaves a Monday, I'm sorry, Tuesday, or, oh, is that the best time to do that? That'll be okay. I was thinking that's also the inauguration day, but most of the activities will be over by that time. So how about Tuesday or Thursday, Diana and
Don't forget, Chloe wanted to meet with you and Brandon.
anyway, what time was that?
Okay. Let me check the email. (10 to 11), and then 12 to 2. That's her availability.
And what day was that?
Tuesday.
So let's aim for Thursday then. Is Thursday at noon okay for Diana and Nancy?
It's okay. Are we covered by the Brown Act? Are we having to do?
No, this is part. This is a subcommittee of the ad hoc committee, so we don't have to.
Okay. Good.
Thanks,
Okay.
Nancy.
Yes.
And I guess this is a committee that we don't need to have Charmaine at unless you really want to, Charmaine.
I don't need to be there. Thank you.
Um,
Unless you'll need me.
and
I'll run the meeting without you. I don't understand.
Just let me know. I'll make myself available. Just let me know.
can you set up the Zoom, or if not, I can set up the Zoom. I think I have a Zoom.
Maybe you should set it up.
Okay, I have a Zoom account. I've never set up a meeting before, but it'll give me a new skill set. Okay, let me look at the minutes. So I mean our agenda, so we can see what else we need to do.
Community forums.
Community forums, do you want to give a brief report to Patrick?
I already gave a report last week. The next one's on the 30th. I don't have an update.
Okay, and we can talk about the other, something we talked about at a cabinet meeting is the possibility of doing a broader a survey that's kind of broader, a written survey that wouldn't take a lot of time for people who are interested, but they're not interested enough to attend the 2-hour meeting. Kind of modeling after the feedback of when they were doing the selection for the new police chief. They had things that were kind of similar to our community forums, but they also had like a survey of that anybody in the city could respond to. Maybe we can talk about that later. I just wanted to put that on your radar, and we can
Let's talk about that later. Yeah, good idea.
Commission office space. Charmaine and Brandon and I are going to look at a potential space next week. City council actions needed. The email that Charmaine was referring to was from Chloe and council member Montgomery Stepp's office, and they're putting the commission on their PSNLN committee agenda for February the 10th. I don't know what all they're planning on doing then, but they did ask for our proposed standard operating procedures. So I'm guessing that they will be looking at that then, and I'll give a report back next week as to what else we discuss at that meeting. We're going to need, everybody I think saw the email from Charmaine regarding the budget. And fortunately, all the council members that put adequate funding for the commission and in their budget priorities. And so we will be following that that closely. Charmaine, what is the process for having the council appoint you as the executive director of the commission once it's formed?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. So I have a conference call today with Henry Foster today to see if we can figure out who's going to take the lead on that. It might be a recommendation from the commission, the new commission, to appoint the executive director as interim, and then later on down the line, the commission will revisit whether or not they want to do a national search. But those are just like little things that I'm hearing right now.
Okay, and you mean national search for the permanent executive director, not the interim,
Yes.
right? Right.
For the permanent,
And the CRB has already voted on that, because in the letter we sent to the council member, remember the whole CRB voted on that letter, and so
Yes.
so we don't need to have a separate vote of the new commission to do that. Okay, and I think that is the next steps. And we do have the date of our next meeting, which will be next Friday at noon. And
Doug, a question. Where is the office space that you're looking at?
Charmaine, do you want to answer
That's
that?
yes, it's at 451 A Street.
Okay.
451 A Street. I think it's in the ethics building, where the ethics commission has their office space.
And is parking space going to be a part of that office space?
I believe they have parking space. Mhm.
That's A as in apple.
Yes, A as in apple.
And Charmaine, another question. You mentioned Amy Fawcett. Has she been retained with Todd Gloria?
I
Over.
don't believe so. I think he has a new chief operating officer that's interim.
Yep. Okay.
Mhm.
So, okay. So are there any other items of, it says items or, it should be, it says items of, but it should be say items or issues of.
I have an item.
Okay.
Diana, several times during this meeting, I felt like you were going to reach through the monitor and smack me. It's the first meeting where I felt like that.
No, not really. I'm, just kind of listening and, being attentive. I know that, and I'm, we all have our preferences, and so, we're a group that work together and get things done.
Yeah, we do. And it's okay. So I was just teasing. Sometimes I deserve a smack like that.
So I would like to reach to the window and give you a hug. How's that?
I would like that very, very much. And
Each
the
one
same
of
thing
you.
to
I
all
really
of you.
miss all of you.
Oh, you do.
And I really miss the pastries, but
You know where they are, Doug. You can come and get them.
so, okay, then our next item is the adjournment. We don't need to take a vote on that. We can just adjourn. So thank you.
Okay,
Right,
and
Doug.
I'm gonna
Have a
take
good
an-
weekend.
Oh, Joe was saying something, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna take an Advil, so you guys have a nice weekend.
Okay, take care. Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.